Hey all, Feanor here again, and today we're discussing New World's sad, imminent demise, and what kind of options that leaves the players that are fleeing from it currently, and maybe that aren't yet, but will need a new home in the future. I'm going to be making an argument for the Elderscrolls Online, of course. I mean, why wouldn't I? And then I'll have alternative options as well. Primarily one option, and then a couple that are kind of out there that I wouldn't necessarily go to myself, but maybe they're options for other people. First and foremost, before we get into the other games and where I would advise people to go to, I do want to kind of brush into this zone where I think people should stick away from and kind of make you think about what had happened with New World and what the involvement was like. And I mean, obviously, Amazon, being the giant evil corporation that it is, definitely did not do right by the players. It did not do right by the Amazon Game Studios employees. There was a whole lot of wrong done there, but a lot of us got used to that and could predict it. I've been warning ESO players who have been getting involved in the hype for New World over the last month or so, for several weeks at least, and trying to urge them not to go check it out. Not because I knew the game was going to be killed off. That is a step higher than what I imagined, but I've gotten very used to Amazon creating hype, coming out with some new enticing things to lure people in, getting them to buy things, getting them to buy the game, pay to try it for the first time, maybe get some cash shop items, and then all but ghosting us in the community, being non-responsive, not fixing game-breaking problems. I mean, the first month was huge. We almost hit 1 million players, and there was a giant amount of us who literally couldn't play the game. There was people stuck under the world. There was people stuck permanently dead. Their gear was unusable, or some people were immortal. Like, you couldn't kill them. They would just be killing people in PvP all day, and this went on for months. We had houses that were extremely difficult to earn and build up to, and with decorations inside that gave you buffs, completely vanish. I was one of those players. I could not get a response for months, to where I had to quit the game, and then eventually came back to try it and whatnot. But it is the constant theme with Amazon that they do a hype pump and dump, but usually it's in the form of just ghosting and not putting any more money or effort in until the next time. It's very much like crypto, like a crypto scam, but in game form. That's what I got used to with Amazon. This was a step higher, and kind of like their ultimate. They're just like, all right, we're ulting, we're getting your money, and we're getting out permanently. And they're going on to make AI games and cutting out all of their employees so that they can pay AI or pay someone to run an AI and then get your money for very cheap. I would urge you guys to stay away from games like Lost Ark, Throne and Liberty, and anything else that their title had any involvement in. Not just because of this factor that I'm talking about, but also because they tend to just pick games and structures that are extra vile and don't respect the players and don't come with any kind of game integrity. In Lost Ark and Throne and Liberty, it's extremely pay to win. Do not let people gaslight you into that it isn't. You would have to farm for months or years to get even close to someone who's a whale, and even then, it's a power creep that you won't keep up with because new stuff will come out. And for anyone who tries to sell you some cope that you can compete as a free player, even if you no-life the crap out of the game, which I have tried, I've literally done for scientific purposes, and also just because I'm driven like that, to be like, well, if it's possible, I want to do it. I want to take a dump on these people who spend tons of money and then make them feel bad. It is not possible. I'm a skilled gamer. I'm not the best gamer, but I'm a skilled gamer, and I'm very knowledgeable in MMOs. I spent a ton of time playing both games, trying my best. I was as high as you could be at the time that I was playing for a free-to-play player. Not even free. I spent some amounts on the little boosts or whatever, but I did not buy the crystal upgrades and whatnot. You have to buy upgrades to upgrade your gear to the crazy levels, and some people are spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in these games. That's the kind of game that Amazon gets involved with, and I really urge you to think twice before getting involved, or just please stay away from it. There's so many other options out there, way more than the ones I'm going to be listing. I'm just listing the couple that I personally have chosen as the winners, as it is, compared to all of the ones I've tried in the past. But honestly, there's so many ones that are just not good enough for me, but they're way better than those titles. Get away from Amazon. All right, preaching is done. Now we can talk about alternative options, starting with my love and long-term relationship of MMOs, which is Elderscrolls Online. Elderscrolls Online is a great game for the type of player who primarily focused on the world exploration and world building and fantastical sites and whatnot that you enjoy in MMOs, and even in New World. Even though New World was largely played for its combat and PvP, there's still a ton of New World that was a fantastic site and great to run around in and whatnot. Obviously, much smaller in scale compared to some other MMOs, but I had a great time going around in there, farming, looking at stuff, discovering little nooks and crannies. So if that's the type of thing that you preferred in New World, then ESO will not only meet your expectations, but it'll far exceed it. Just depends on if other aspects or requirements too that don't quite make it there for you, or you prefer the art style of New World and ESO doesn't quite hit you the same. It's something that you should at least delve into a little bit and see how it hits you. Something that kind of aligns great with that is the world building with characters and story and voice acting. In ESO, the strengths in those categories are not even close to New World. New World was like infantile compared to this. So if you really want to get immersed and listen to characters speak from some of these voice actors are famous actors that do a fantastic job. Some aren't perfect, especially the older ones. There's some that are a little lower on the low end, but for the most part, ESO's voice acting and storyline and whatnot is great. It's what you would expect in an Elder Scrolls title, but just in an MMO form. So if you're okay with MMO structure and you love Elder Scrolls lore, then this is an easy pick for you. ESO is also great for those who love completion content and collecting. There's an insane amount of completion content, achievements, dyes, gear, mounts, pets. There is, of course, a crown store, and there's a very valid argument that there's too many of those like pets and mounts and even homes in the crown store that you can't get in the game. I understand that. There obviously has to be a way to make money. I'm not saying it's the best way. I'm not saying it's the only way, but that is the way that ESO makes money, and I'm just happy that it doesn't come in the form of someone kicking my ass in PvP. You know? Like, I will gladly take either paying for some cosmetics that I want or not paying for them and not being able to earn them in the game, as long as I can play the entirety of the game. And there are alternative options. Can't speak. There are alternative options in the game for all those things. They just sometimes won't be what you wanted or as flashy. So just keeping it real on that end. But it has a ton of things that you can complete and earn in the game. So you don't really need to focus on the crown store at all. One of the strongest suits of ESO is something that I value greatly. Some people might not give a damn about, and I understand that, but it's the player home customization and how many player homes there are that you can even earn in-game, not just buying the crown store. And you can set items wherever you want at any angle. There's add-ons that can also improve that even more. But the amount of customization that you can do in these homes is incredible. And especially in the large homes, you can store so many items in it. It's up to 700 for the largest scale home. So you can really imagine how much you can customize these things. And I would urge you to check out videos of people and their builds. There's thousands out there. There's tons of people that spend all of their time building, or a majority of their time. There's entire guilds formed around house building. There's entire RP guilds that really utilize houses and how well they can be customized. So if you're into that sort of thing, then ESO is an easy pick. It's a good 90 to 95% of the items, I believe, that you can earn in-game or craft in-game. And then there is an amount that is only obtainable in the Crown Store, but it is a heavy majority that you can just play the game and earn yourself. Another really positive aspect to ESO is, regardless of what the numbers are on Steam or what the numbers are compared to what they used to be, it's always active. It doesn't matter what time of day it is, no matter what zone I'm in, there's other players there. There may be fewer in some zones at some times, depending on the zone, but it's never a dead game. And you may have to wait for a queue at some points during non-peak hours, depending on what server you're playing on, for dungeon queues and PvP queues. But if you've come from New World, then this is going to be nothing to you, because we all know that there's been months where you can't get a single BG queue for hours on end, and it was an absolute nightmare to get stuff completed and to find groups. So there's plenty of actually dead points in New World's history to where ESO is going to feel super alive all the time, even at its lowest points in like 4 in the morning on the West Coast. Another huge positive here is there is no massive power creep that happens in ESO. I have characters that I made back in 2014 and barely upgraded after that are still strong now in 2025. The legendary gear that I had then is still the legendary gear that you would get now in those sets. They didn't upscale the power level of the characters and the gear. They didn't upscale and put a new color or quality status on the gear. It is still viable and good. The only thing is that they'll come out with new sets that you might like better for your current setup, or you might want to switch to. Especially if you're a meta chaser, that's totally fine. But you don't suddenly log on and everything that you worked on is garbage. That I hate in MMOs, and I'll get more onto that later. But that is not the case in ESO. And you can come and go as you please, and you can just, as long as you have the skill and the knowledge to do the content, then you can do the content with the character that was already viable before. The only caveat to this is the top meta builds will sometimes get nerfed after being able to play them for multiple years on end, and people will have a complete fit about it, as if they just made it yesterday and it's just got destroyed immediately for no reason. But really it's because they're playing the absolute most broken build that they copied off someone else, and it has to be brought down so that it's more leveled. Even though it'll never be perfect, it's more leveled to the other builds, so it's not just a singular pick. You'll see, if you get into the community, this is a constant back and forth, but for the most part, your build is going to be perfectly fine, especially if you make it yourself. It's very unlikely that your stuff is going to get nerfed and be made less viable. The OP builds are still viable, they're angry that the numbers aren't as big as they used to be. Now we do have to discuss the primary negative, especially for New World players, and most of you will know, it's the combat. It's not an absolute loss. There are positives, and I'll get to those, but the negative is definitely in the way that you have to aim and the way that you combat with others and the counter combat and whatnot. It's not the same. The movement is more floaty, it's less impactful, it's less precise. It's definitely not the same, and I understand if that's a deal breaker for some people. I preferred the combat in New World than I did in ESO, but obviously not enough to where I didn't come back to ESO because of all the other things that it trounced New World in. The combat wasn't enough to sell me entirely. I still would prefer the New World combat. Now, with ESO, there are different positives. If you're a sweaty PvP player, it's just you'll be working in a different way. So in New World, what I didn't like is when you go to use an attack or an ability, you essentially lose control of your character and it gets really slow, or you come to a stop and you're like waiting for that frame to end so you can do the next move. That doesn't really happen in ESO. You can constantly move while doing most attacks. It's a very fluid moving game. It's a lot less stop and go. And there's also a lot more variety of spells and abilities, and even on your gear sets that you can get used to and utilize in your builds, as to where New World was pretty straightforward, and people were, for the most part, using the same builds, same weapon types, and it was just trying to do better than the next person. That's better for balance. I won't lie. It's a lot better for balance because it was a lot more simple and straightforward, a lot less to navigate around. So the balance in New World was better. Some of the combat mechanics were better, but ESO is less clunky, a little more floaty, and there's more options. You gotta weigh the differences, see what you're gonna like. I would say try it out, at least watch some videos on it, see if it's gonna work for you. But just wanted to be upfront about that. It's not the same, for sure. Another negative, one of the highest negatives, is that it's the big nasty word, subscription-based. Granted, you don't have to pay the subscription, that is true. I do think that there's a little bit of cope that goes into that. I would not want to play ESO without the subscription. The perks that you get, like an infinite crafting bag, which is nuts compared to not having one, and the amount of strain that goes into your inventory for that, and the amount of content you get access to for having the subscription, otherwise you have to buy it separately. It's a pretty big perk. I would suggest playing with a subscription. I would call it a subscription game, though the base game is totally viable for you to try out. It's only $20 and it comes with a lot of content. You will not have inventory woes for quite some time just playing that portion of the game. So you can have fun while never having a sub, while never buying the other content, and just enjoy the game. See if you want to. Don't buy it outright unless you want to, but that's the kind of person I am. If I'm gonna do something, I go all in. But if you want to just dip your toes in, buy the $20 game. You just missed the sale, unfortunately, but it's only $20 anyway. Buy the $20 game, give it a shot, see how you feel about it. Maybe you don't like it, and then it's only a $20 waste. It's not the end of the world. I think you'll still have some fun with it. You can validate $20, most likely. I do want to end this off with saying that ESO did claw me back multiple times, but especially this last time. I've been playing again for years, and I've not branched out for long. I've tried other games like Throne and Liberty and various other ones, and I always come back. It's never my plan anymore to leave ESO. I always understand that this is going to be a game I want to come back to. I love it greatly, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of hours to be played for most gamers. I will not say that every single person will love this game. I know that to not be the case. I've seen that to not be the case, and that's fine. But I'm very confident that if someone actually gets into the game and tries it, you're going to get some amount of enjoyment, and it's going to exceed the dollar amount that you spent to get in. Another fantastic game that I no longer play and I've not played for a long time, but I still give a lot of kudos to and recommend to people if they've not touched it, is Guild Wars 2. And Guild Wars 2 excels at its world building and storyline and beautiful cutesy environment. I definitely, it has a soft spot in my heart forever for these things, and even though it kind of lost me towards the end game and didn't get to hold me for that very long-term play like ESO did, it still is very good for a nice playthrough or teaming up with some friends or family members and going through it. And maybe it will be long-term for you. I'm not the arbiter of what is and what isn't. There's plenty of people that have played that game for many, many years, even from the beginning, and that might be you as well. You just need to test it out and see if that's the game for you. I'm going to go through some of the positives of this game too, as well as some of the negatives, but it is generally a really good game. One of the main points is that it's an extremely positive community. At least when I played, it always seemed like the most positive MMO community, and people were always willing to help me and answer questions and whatnot. I know the landscape of the internet has changed greatly over the years, so I can't guarantee that that's still the case, but I hope that it is, because that was a huge selling point for me. Guild Wars is also a completionist playground. It's not on the same scale as ESO or even World of Warcraft, which I actually think takes the cake for this category, but it is pretty dang good, and there's a ton of achievements. They can be a bit grindy towards the late end of it, but there's still a lot of really cool achievements and unlockables and neat ways that you can get those achievements through various fun activities, which is not done in a lot of games. I feel like a lot of games are extremely boring. So Guild Wars has both ends of the spectrum. It can be extremely fun, engaging content, or it can be extremely grindy to get those achievements and collectibles. But it is there, and there's a lot to do. So if you're a completionist, this is not a negative point. The Group content in the open world is huge, and it's cinematic, and it's super exciting, and there can be tons of people taking on like a giant dragon or something, and it feels amazing. It always felt really good to me, and there's a lot of like mini mechanics that are going on in the boss fights. It's pretty intuitive at most points, or if it's not, you'll learn pretty quick. So that is a big selling point to me as well. One of the huge things I enjoyed in Guild Wars that I don't see in any other MMO, or not nearly enough, is intentional jumping puzzles. And these aren't just like, oh, you jump up a couple little things and then you're done. They have like crazy jumping puzzles that sometimes take a lot of practice and time to beat, and they have rewards at the end. And sometimes there's events based off of it. There's daily rewards or monthly rewards for them. And there's a community for jumping puzzles. If that tells you anything, it is one of the things I miss about Guild Wars, and I wish other games had. And the movement is pretty dang good, so it's not like an insufferable thing. In ESO, I make jumping puzzles sometimes, and the movement is less than ideal for them. It is still doable, and I've learned to like it, but I would prefer movement like Guild Wars if I was going to be doing jumping puzzles that are built into the game. If you like mounts that have various abilities, Guild Wars does have that. You have combat mounts, you have mounts that can jump extremely high, you have mounts that can swim fast, you have mounts that can fly, and more. So that's something they added many years ago that I know is a positive for some and a negative for others. So if that's something you're into, that is another thing to consider. All right, we're not going to skip over the most important thing. As New World players, you're going to want to know about the combat. The combat is kind of a mixture between New World and World of Warcraft. And it really is as good and as bad as that sounds. I think there are things that are more positive about Guild Wars combat than New World, but there are also things that take away from it, and it's a little tab targety at times and with certain abilities and characters, and there's a little less freedom in how you decide to play it, but there are more spells and abilities, so there's more variety in that way, more of that strategy mindset, and it does have the freedom of mobility, kind of like ESO, where you aren't locked down in New World. As soon as you activate something, your character like comes to a stop, and it's more clunky in New World in that way. It's very weird. I always loved how free moving New World was until you actually start hitting something. So in Guild Wars, you can auto attack while running. You can keep punching or shooting your gun or whatever it is mid-movement. There's a punishment for backpedaling, so there's a whole way of learning how to turn target and keep your movement in a straight or side-to-side fashion. So you really should check it out before deciding if you love it or hate it. It's hard to say how you'll feel about it, but give it a shot. It might be the game for you in the way of PvP. I can't speak to if the battleground system is better these days. I wasn't a huge fan of it before, but I know they were working on it many years ago. So yeah, give it a look. Check out some gameplay footage. Maybe dip into the game if you feel compelled to do so, and it might be good for you. But just know that it's still not New World, and no game that I've seen really is. The ones that have gotten closer are extremely pay to win, and I would refuse to play them long term or at all. All right, we are entering into the honorable mentions category, which is going to be Final Fantasy Online and World of Warcraft. So I think a lot of you already know about these games, especially World of Warcraft, but we're still going to go over them a little bit. And I'm sure people aren't going to be extremely happy with my take on these if they feel any kind of way about the games. Final Fantasy was not the game for me. This is going to sound extremely negative at first, but I kind of have a turnaround at the end for you to understand that, like, what I say does not mean anything to some people. But if you do not like sitting through walls of text, if you do not like sitting through a bunch of unskippable cutscenes and learning about lore that you aren't compelled to be interested in yet, that is how the game started. I feel like I didn't get to move my character and be autonomous for an hour and a half or something like that. Maybe that's an exaggeration in my brain, but that is what the experience was like to me. I spent some time making my character, I pushed play, and then I did not get to play. I sat in a very long cutscene and had to read everything. There's no voice acting. At least, I mean, maybe there isn't like some cinematics later or something, but it's all text and it's extremely forced and if it's extremely elongated. If you're into Final Fantasy and the story and characters and everything, maybe that's fine to you and it's like reading a book that you already have interested in. I did not and do not. So that was an extreme negative to me. Then once I got to my character and got to move around and try attacking things, I sadly realized I did not research enough, and I felt like I was playing an old version of World of Warcraft. The combat is extremely similar, if not the same. It feels like they just straight up copied World of Warcraft, and it's the same tab targeting stuff. The combat abilities move and work the same way. Some of them straight up just are the same abilities that are in World of Warcraft, and I logged off shortly after. I could not believe that I spent all that time leading up to getting to a combat system that I've been burnt out on, I'm done with, and I do not want to restart on. All that being said, the game is extremely beloved by a lot of people, and that has to say a lot about something. I can't be right objectively. There's got to be a ton of sellable points about Final Fantasy to many, many people, millions of people, literally. So it's worth you checking out. Do not take my word as gospel. You might even just watch a video and realize that you're going to love the game. So please look into it. It is very successful. The game can be beautiful. I've seen it. Although a lot of the graphics for me weren't the greatest, some people feel very differently. And maybe it's more of a nostalgic feel, or maybe it's just that Final Fantasy feeling from past games that they want. There might be something there for you, and there is a great community. I've heard great things about their community as well. So if it's something you're into, also role-playing. Not sure that that's a huge New World market from what I saw, but if it's something that aligns to you, check out Final Fantasy. I hear they might have the largest role-playing community still, so that might be a selling point for you. Not so much for me. So I think I'm just lacking the things that really sell the game to other people, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad game. It's just not for me. Okay, now World of Warcraft. This is a very easy choice for a very specific experience and type of player. I would probably assume that most of you have tried World of Warcraft, if not seen a bunch about it already. I would be extremely shocked if this is the first time you're hearing the name World of Warcraft. But it's a great game for lore, cinematics, world exploration, getting immersed in the game. I think Warcraft has always done a great job at that. And granted, I did grow up with Warcraft 1, 2, 3, and World of Warcraft. So maybe I'm a little biased on that. Even though I don't play anymore, I played WoW for 15 years, off and on. I took breaks, but I was very invested in the game. And I still would have been if not for a couple different factors. So I still think it's a great game. There's still a lot of things that people can enjoy in it. If you don't mind the tab targeting combat, then it would be no downside for you. There's a ton of 4D chess type PvP combat where it's more about how many abilities you have and when you're going to use them, where you're going to use them, at what points and stuff. That's really where the PvP in WoW shines. There is also a lot of fast-paced movement. You can attack while being mobile. So I'm not saying it's not like a turn-based PvP system, but it's tab target, and you all know what that is, and you know why you went to New World to get away from that. So if that isn't something that you're interested in, it definitely is that. So let's be clear on that part. But I do think that it holds the champion position for completionism. So completionism, collecting, achievements, all that good stuff, World of Warcraft has it in the bag. I miss the amount of stuff that I had done in there and how high I was in the completionist bar, and leaving that behind hurt a lot. So if you are someone that prioritizes that over anything else, WoW is probably the choice for you. Even if you've stayed away from it for any reason, like even if it's just bad PR or whatever, if you're a completionist, I have not found a game that competes with it. It really dominates that sphere. So keep that in mind. One of the perks of World of Warcraft is the way that it feels to level in the game. And I know that that's had some ups and downs throughout the years, and I don't know where it sits exactly right now, but for the most part, it always has been somewhat of an enjoyable experience compared to other games. There's something that was very enticing and rewarding about it, and also a lot of us just have nostalgia for that type of gameplay that still exists to some extent, or you could play the classic version, which means it definitely exists. But that is a very strong suit up until a point. So we're going to get to the main negative, which kind of comes off the end of that, like the power creeping feeling. It never stops once you hit max level, and max level never stops changing and increasing and whatnot over the years or months. So the main reason I left World of Warcraft is I was tired of my time and effort being essentially disrespected and deleted. It's an extremely bad feeling, especially over many years, where they make an artificial need to play the game instead of desire to play the game. And what I mean by that is in ESO, like I was saying earlier, if I got gear in 2014 that was top tier then, it's still top tier now. It may not be the best set, but it's still really good. And I can put it on and get valuable stats out of that gear today. And my set that I've been wearing on a couple of my characters for a few years is still 100% as viable as it was a few years ago when I made them. In World of Warcraft, that will never be the case. In World of Warcraft, you can spend weeks or months. It's not years because something new comes out and it all gets destroyed. But you can spend weeks and months building up your character, farming extremely hard, doing the same dungeons and raids over and over and over again, even when you don't want to anymore. You might have had fun the first run through, second run through, fourth run through. You're not getting the drops that you want. Sometimes you have to wait for a week to get another chance at that drop, and then hope that somebody else doesn't get it instead of you because it's competitive loot. Then you finally get yourself near top geared. You're getting up towards the upper gear score limits, and then guess what? New content comes out, and all of your epics or legendaries are replaced by garbage green gear in the new zone. I cannot do that anymore. I want to play new content that I use what I've earned and the skills that I've honed to defeat it. I don't want to have to get stats that mean nothing. I'm not actually getting stronger like myself. I'm not using my brain to get better at a game. I'm just going through the motions, doing tasks for a certain amount of time because they want to keep me online. Look, I know that can be a selling point to some people, and that's fine. I just personally can't align with that, and I'm very done with that type of gameplay. I'm okay with like a certain amount, but World of Warcraft is all carrot on the stick. They really abuse that meta in MMO game structure, and I'm just done with it. If it's something that you like, more power to you. I hope you enjoy it. That means there's tons of hours of gameplay for you. I'm not meaning this to take a shot at you. It's just I'm being blunt and honest about what it is for me and kind of putting it into words that maybe some people haven't considered. And I know that that's the case because I've had tons of talks with people that they never considered it. And plenty of them had a bad feeling, but they couldn't quite put their finger on why. And I helped point out what that was and why it feels so bad. So maybe that'll be doing it for you here. Maybe you don't care and you want to just go play. Then hey, more power to you. All right, this is the end of the video. I just want to revisit the idea that there are a ton of games out there. There are MMOs and non-MMOs alike that I think your time is much better spent playing than any Amazon title. So I'm just reasserting that I really want to see you guys get away from Amazon or any companies that are like them or emulate the similar practices. Try to keep an eye on how those things work and get away from them. Maybe you think that about ZOS and ESO, and that's fine. Maybe you think that about Blizzard. Maybe you think that about Arena.net. Whatever it is, it's fine if you have those opinions about even the games that I shared here. I just want people to really pay attention to how the company treats their employees and how a company treats their gamers. And I definitely see flaws even in the games that I listed here. It's just about the threshold. And I think Amazon far exceeded that a long time ago. And I really feel bad for all the people that got roped in further. And I loved New World as well, and I think it could have been a fantastic game, and they absolutely ravaged it by being greedy. I'm gonna hold off on some of the words that I would like to call Bezos and his minions. Okay, so I want everyone to do their best to not pay into those pay to win gamba, use and abuse type companies that do it the worst compared to all the others. So good luck on your search. I hope this video helped you, and I hope I'll see you guys in ESO. That is the primary MMO that I'm in. If you're joining, let me know in the comments. If you've already joined and you're just watching this video to see if you find more confirmation in what I had to say or more information about these things, then fantastic. Let me know how you felt about the game so far. I play on PCNA. I am ESO Feanor in-game as well. I run Ironforge AH, which of course is a World of Warcraft reference. I'm an old WoW player. And we host a ton of newbie players in our guild, and I would be more than happy to see your application come through. There is a limit to players, so depending on how well this video does, I might not be able to accept your invitation. I am always capped, but we have people that come and go. But anyway, enough rambling. I hope to see you in the game. Hit me up if you want to. Let me know in the comments how you feel about any of this. Tell me if I'm wrong. It's fine. We can fight about it in the comments. Just keep it respectful. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.